I did to show you your Spotify Wrapped stats for the year. That was kind of fun.
It was
right?
fun.
But I think, and then we were looking over one of my podcasts, and what I thought was significant was it talked about how people share the episodes, and we looked at yours first, and it showed text and whatever, and then yours said the people share them through Snapchat, and then we looked at mine, and it was like carrier pigeon, letter, text, email, salutation, tin can, and string.
Okay. Yep.
And
that exact list.
But it did make it seem like, oh, the kid Mackie's getting out to the kids these days.
I'm technically still a kid.
True. Yeah. Mine really didn't say carrier pigeon or letter.
No, it did. I saw it. It did.
That's funny if you were going to write somebody a letter to tell them to listen to a certain
podcast.
To this
podcast.
Yeah. Would you write out the pigeon. Yeah.
But anyways, welcome back to The Mind, the Mirror, and Me. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you,
Father,
Mackie.
Mr. Therapist.
Thank you, Mackie, cosmetologist, my daughter.
What an intro.
Is there a bad thing that somebody says, like licensed cosmetologist versus like beautician versus hair person? Do any of them not sound fun, or are any of them offensive? No, honestly,
no. Nobody's been like, you dumb hair girl or anything like that. You know, it's always just like, nobody really knows. Like, I just go stylist. Usually.
Okay.
But people will say cosmetologist, hair person.
Is there something people don't like, though?
Normally? Not that I know of. They're probably, I mean, people probably have opinions, but that I know of, it just doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny. I had to write a letter for a court thing this week, and I have to say that I'm so-and-so's psychotherapist.
Yeah.
And I feel like the only time you use that is when you're writing a letter, because normally I'm just somebody's therapist. But there was one time.
Kind of scary.
Well, it does. Psychotherapist. Like, yeah. But then there was one time, well, every now and again, I'll tell somebody that I'm a therapist. And then one time somebody even reached out and said, do you do massage? I was like, what? And I was like, oh, massage therapist. Isn't that funny? Or physical therapist. And I thought that was crazy. Or physical therapist, or occupational therapist, or behavioral therapist, or speech therapist. I didn't realize there was.
So does that bother you when people think you're something else, or do you care? Or the psychotherapist, does that make you feel weird?
No, it's a good question. I think in my formerly more emotionally immature days, I probably did care, but I can't remember the last time I really cared.
Had any thoughts about it whatsoever?
No. I do still feel like it's funny when somebody emails me and they say, Dr. Overbay. I do think that one's funny.
Doctor.
On account of I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, not even a little bit.
Well, I did get...
But
I was on the Whole Physicians podcast. It's these 3 emergency room doctors, and they're amazing and awesome. And they gave me my official doctorate in narcissism. So I do have a doctorate.
Oh, you're kind
of an honorary doctor.
An honorary doctor, but like, don't put you in an operating room.
I'll give it a shot.
No.
Maybe,
no. That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe something simple, but if it ever comes down to me getting surgery, stay away, please.
Okay. Because I feel like you could do a tie-in somehow to what we're talking about today with that.
Because your purpose in life is not to be a surgeon.
No, because I get sick when I freak out when somebody even tells me about cutting something.
I didn't think I did. And the other day, I sliced my finger open.
Yes, you did.
And I had to take a sit down. I had to take a minute because I was like, I'm going to throw up. I'm going to pass out. I'm going to drop dead for just this tiny little cut on my finger. So apparently I'm weak because that was brutal. So
before we got on
there either.
Before we came on, I was reading to you this list of the top 10 professions for psychopaths. And I mean, doctor was pretty high up there, just saying.
It was a little bit up there. So good thing we're not doctors, right?
That's right. Okay, but purpose. Tell me more about this purpose you speak of.
So purpose for me has been like a heavy topic, I guess, my whole life. Huh. It's been something that, like, if somebody starts talking about it, it's one that I'll kind of just steer the conversation somewhere else.
Well, yeah.
It's kind of uncomfortable. It kind of makes me feel uneasy. And so I was like thinking about that, and I was like, why? Like, why is that so weird for me? Because it should be purpose, like, let's go.
Yeah.
And it's not. And I think it's just because I've had a hard time knowing or understanding my purpose.
Yeah.
That's been a thing my whole life, or just kind of being confused by it.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell I'm like getting antsy just talking about it. I don't like talking about it. So anyways, I've been doing lots of thinking about it as we've talked a lot about self-love and
Yeah.
self-worth and all the things. And I've been on kind of a journey of that. And so purpose has been a common theme that always comes back around, you know? It's always
Yeah.
like in the lists of things to find and do and know and whatever. So, just for some background, I was raised pretty religious.
Mm.
You could argue.
Yeah.
And I think that this, at least to some extent, is a common thing in most organized religions that I know of, or at least the religion I grew up in, where there was kind of this emphasis of the man is to provide, or the man is to
Yeah.
like work and provide and do all that stuff. And the woman's job, her whole life, is to be a wife and a mother,
Yeah.
right? Like that's the emphasis. Those are the things. And so, because of that, in my own experience, right? Because I'm sure other people have had different experiences or potentially same, whatever. But
Yeah.
I was basically taught that the sole purpose of a woman, of being a girl, of being a woman, was to get married and have kids,
Mm.
right? And so to me, my purpose was get married and have kids. So I don't even know how to explain this, but it was almost this weird thing. Like I felt like until I was a wife or a
Yeah.
mom, I was nothing,
Just kind of
basically.
floating along,
Yes.
wait until that
Yes.
happens. Yeah.
Exactly. And almost like my purpose didn't start until I got to the point where I was a wife and a mom. And everything I was doing was to learn how to be more nurturing and
Yeah.
to present myself to guys in a way that would make me seem like I would be a good wife, right? And
Mm.
so my whole experience was just, how do I get a guy to marry me? Like, how do I get a guy to marry me? And how can I be a good mom? And
And
that was my purpose.
And I want to say, Mac, because obviously as your dad, and I'm not saying a lot right now. And if anybody's listening, yes, steam is coming out of my ears, and no, I'm kidding. But I want, this is your experience, even if it wasn't what mom and I had hoped. But I can validate that. I know that this is the message that's out there, because I still remember, even as a therapist, I can remember very clearly the first woman I ever worked with that said, "I know I shouldn't want to work, but."
Yes.
And I remember
That
thinking,
right there.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
remember thinking, oh man. And then I remember thinking to myself, oh, I know what she means, because I
Yeah.
had just been developing my emotional baseline theory, which is, you got to do things to raise your baseline so you can be the best version of whatever. And I was still looking at it through, if she was with her kids all day and it was driving her crazy, which she felt bad about, then if
Yeah, the
she were
guilt that would
to,
come with that, because
yeah,
all
and if
you're
she
supposed to be is the mom. Yeah.
yeah, and if she were to go to work where she found a sense of purpose, that then would she then come home and be her baseline high, and then in a better position to be a better or more present
Right.
mom? And then I remember very, very realistically thinking, wait, should I even say this?
Yeah. You're like, is this allowed?
Yeah.
Like, is this
Yeah.
okay?
So I mean, I hear you. Even if your mom and I want to, or me, I can only speak to me. Even if I want to say now, but Mac, you always knew you could do something else. Am I saying that just to alleviate my own discomfort,
I
where
think so.
I got to
Yeah.
take ownership of
Yeah.
saying, no, Mac, you can do anything you want to do, but man, give me them grandkids, huh?
Like, but get on that.
Right.
But yeah, it was hard to not feel
Mm.
that way, being 14, 15, whatever. It was hard to not take it that way and feel like, okay, we're talking about this week after week. Like, this
Yeah.
must be the only thing. But I did feel like leaning into a career seriously just felt pointless. It felt pointless my whole life. And even I remember, like, when I started getting into makeup and getting into hair as a teenager, I really liked it and I really thought it was fun, but there was this part of me, or this part of my brain, that would then just kind of shut that down and go, but you're never going to need that.
Yeah.
Like, you're never going to need that, because you're going to get married and then you're going to have kids. And even when I started going to hair school, my whole thought process there was, well, I'll just do this until I get
Until,
married. And
yeah.
then as soon as I get married, I'll be done, because then I'll have kids and I'll be a stay-at-home mom, and that'll be my whole life. And that,
Yeah.
and so it's like, this career doesn't matter, because this is never going to be a thing. I'm never going to actually need this. I'm killing time, basically, is what.
And did you ever feel like the message also was, I mean, or you need this thing to fall back on if for some reason your husband ends
Yes.
up being a turd or something like that?
Yes. I would always like tell people, well, when my kids are out of the house, then I'll
Yeah.
fall back
Right.
onto
Or I can
this.
cut their hair and it ends
Yeah,
up
or I
being
can
a
cut my kids' hair and it's a beneficial
yeah.
thing. Yeah,
Right. $20,000 degree to
right?
then be able
To
to save
cut
the
a
$10 at
couple.
Supercuts. Yeah.
Exactly. But those were the justifications I made in my head because
Yeah.
of what I thought my purpose was, and because I thought, this had to
Yeah.
be my purpose and this had to be the way that it was. Also, like, this sounds dumb, but I feel like I was so confused growing up because as much as I did want to, get married and have kids, I also just wanted to, like, be a person,
Yeah.
but I felt like I wasn't allowed to in it, which, it was very confusing.
Yeah.
And I just yeah, so I felt like I just didn't have a purpose at that time, and I was just counting on, "Okay, but I will," at one point, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, I thought I'd get married at 19 and I didn't, and then I thought I'd get married at 20 and I didn't, and then all of a sudden I'm basically 24 and I'm not even close, and so it's
Mm.
like, obviously, things didn't happen the way I thought they would,
Yeah.
which I'm grateful for now,
I
but
know, and I appreciate it because I
right,
know
like,
this is
yeah,
one of those, if you go back and listen in some of the past episodes, it would even make more sense in context because I think we've talked about you wouldn't know yourself, and would you
right.
have then just tried to be again, continue to I got to be who I need to be to get this person to like me, even if it's
Yeah.
at the risk of my own
Because
purpose.
that's what I was doing because all I knew was my purpose is to get married, so I will do whatever it takes to get married. I will be whoever I need to
Yeah,
get married. And so looking at the guys I dated, the serious relationships I've had, it's like, good
yeah,
grief. Did not like okay. I'm so glad didn't
yeah,
marry those people. But anyways, then back to hair school.
yeah.
I have one other thing and then we'll kind of get more into purpose. This is a lot of background. I'm like, here's a little bit of background and
It's
it's
good.
10 minutes later, but
Yeah.
I vividly remember this experience in hair school where there was a group of us that got assigned to do pedicures for these like four girls that were probably mid to late 20s, and they were there for like a birthday or something or whatever. And so a couple of us got assigned to do their pedicures. And I remember we're like talking to the girls, and three of them had been married like since they were, 19, 20, and potentially had kids. Like, we're living that life, which to me was like, that's my goal. That's my purpose. That's where I'm headed.
Yeah.
And then the fourth girl was again mid to late 20s, and she was not married. She was not even dating. Like, she was choosing not to date, and she was very successful in her career. And she was like doing all these really cool things. And I remember feeling so confused because she said it with confidence, and she
With
said it
confidence.
with like
Yeah.
a, oh yeah, I'm doing this. I can't remember what her job was, but it was something really cool. And like, she said it in a way that was like, yeah, I'm doing this and I love it and I'm proud of it and I know myself. Like, that was
Mm.
the energy there. And I was so confused because I didn't know that was an option, which is so silly because at this, I'm like 19, 20 at this time, but I didn't know that it was okay to have a career. It was okay to like do things for me
Yeah.
and not just to get married and have kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember just being so confused because part of me felt like, well, I should feel sad for her, right? Like, I should
Right.
feel
She's
like,
obviously not
oh,
really happy,
right,
right?
she's
Yeah.
alone, like, she's
Right.
just going to work, that's so sad. But then there was a part of me that was just like, wait, that's kind of cool. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of cool. And she's like stoked about it. And that's really, you could tell she was passionate about it. And there was
Yeah.
something about that I was like, I want that. Like,
Yeah.
that's cool. But that was the first time that I was like, oh, maybe there's more than just what I've been told. Maybe
Yeah,
there's
for
more
sure.
than just this one thing.
Being your dad and therapist here,
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I can tell you this is something I'm talking to people easily, I can say daily about,
Right.
and because I this is part of what I put in the bucket of the right guys, theory where
Right,
if
guys.
those other 3 yeah, if those other 3 are saying, "Yeah, but she's not happy," right, guys? There she can't be. I
Right?
mean,
There's no way
like
she's actually just happy doing that, right, guys?
no, she wishes she had what we have, and I think this is where I
Yes.
think we've spoken to this a couple times, but this concept from this book, Nonviolent Communication, that says we make these observations and judgments all in the same breath. So we observe that person, and then we make the judgment. Well, right, but they're lonely, and they must not be happy.
Yeah.
Because why? Because then that makes me feel better about myself, and I have to actively step outside of myself to be able to now be curious about her experience. And then it takes a lot of maturity to be able to say, that sounds amazing, because that doesn't
Yeah.
mean I'm doing anything wrong or bad.
Right.
And so I can actually hold space to say, wow, her experience sounds great. I'm excited. I want to be curious. Tell me more about that. And I don't have to defend mine. Well, yeah, but you don't get to clean poop going up our kid's back or whatever, or you don't have the joy of forgetting to bring an extra diaper when you go out, which
Right.
is amazing. Yeah.
Which is so fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, the curiosity thing is just, yeah, it's so interesting because it changes everything when you can just be curious and not
It
just
really
assume
does.
things and just, write everyone
Yeah.
else off as wrong. But
Yeah.
anyways, all of that whole background and intro to basically just say that my experience with purpose was that purpose was a very specific thing. It was one thing, right? Like it was a set.
Else telling you this is your purpose. It is a
Yes.
thing that you do. And
Yes.
if you have any other thoughts, you're wrong. So
Exactly.
figure out what I think your purpose needs to be.
Yes. And almost like just a checklist that somebody
Yeah.
handed to me of,
Yeah.
okay, here it is. Like, here's your purpose. And so I do feel like because I was so set on this one specific purpose, like I spent my whole life overlooking an evolving purpose, right?
Mhm.
That like I potentially had because I didn't understand that purpose could change and that
So
there could be more
yes.
than one. And that
Yes.
it's not just here's this one thing you have to do your whole life, that it's like, it very much can be a day to day,
Absolutely.
month to month, year to year thing that changes. And so, all that intro to read you a little quote
Okay.
that says, "You are not a fixed entity. You do not have one grand, singular, constant purpose. As long as you have genuine intent behind your actions, everything you do serves a purpose. As long as you are truly present, you notice that everything contributes to a greater whole. You do not need to dedicate yourself endlessly to one practice to achieve a purpose. Allow yourself to oscillate freely between them all. Experiment. You are not one dimensional. Treat yourself as such." Which that changed my whole life.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's a lot there. I mean, because there's so
There's a
many other people
lot
that
there.
if they're doing a thing, then it can't be that you can actually do more things or change things,
Or
because then that might
smaller
mean that,
things, or
yeah,
yeah,
because that means that then they maybe could have as well. So then that
right.
can't be a thing.
Then kind of going into, because you have lots of, things about, or you have opinions about goals. I know you
Mhm.
do. Another quote I'll read you. This one says, "Your problem is that you equate purpose with goal-based achievement. God or the
Yeah, yeah.
universe or morality isn't interested in your achievements, just your heart. When you choose to act out of kindness, compassion, and love, you are already aligned with your true purpose. No need to look any further." So again, this one changed my life a little bit because it's saying that purpose is not a set thing, and it's again
No.
not a checklist. It's moving and evolving and changing, and it's more inward, I think, than anything. And also, your purpose is not something that you can fail. Like, purpose is not a thing you can
Oh,
do wrong. Maybe
I've
that's
never
kind
I've
of the
never thought about that.
epiphany I had, and it's like I've been thinking about it a lot, but it's not, because I think in terms of, if we go back to me feeling like my purpose is just to be a wife and a mom, technically
Uh-huh.
speaking, I could go my whole life without being a wife or a mom, technically
Yeah.
speaking, and that would mean I failed my purpose. And I just
Oh,
don't think
yeah.
that I don't think, if it is really your purpose or
Yeah.
a purpose of yours, I don't think it's possible to fail it. I don't think that makes sense. I don't think those two things go together. Which, tell me your
Yeah.
thoughts, because maybe I'm wrong and you can tell me I'm an idiot, but
No, you really can't, because what I was thinking is, so values, because I think, in the world of acceptance and commitment therapy, it's all about acting with a sense of purpose based off of your values, and
mhm,
values are a sense of being. And so you can't achieve a value. So you can't have
right,
a value of money, or, I have a value of getting $1 million, because once you're there, now what? But you can have a value of curiosity, and a value of adventure, and a value of knowledge, and a value of fun, and a value of fitness, and a value of all these things that will continue to be. And so I think that what you're saying, what I like, is when you're working off of that, then you'd never fail, but you always continually have more data. So
right. And you can keep
yeah,
growing and changing and evolving
yes,
in a good direction. Like, I feel like the only
yeah,
options then are standing still or growing. But there
yeah.
is no going backwards. There is no failing.
Because that's where I say that. So if somebody has a certain, I'm trying to think, like there's a person I've worked with that they have this value of creativity, and they always wanted to be an artist. And then they had
Yeah.
all the people around them telling them no. And then they were finally given the opportunity to do it. And then they started doing it. And then once they actually had the opportunity, they realized, oh, this really isn't necessarily it. It's maybe not
Yeah.
necessarily about that. It's more even about they just wanted the ability to kind of go on these adventures or in their minds or make these choices. But at that time, they would have never got to that point if they never would have been able to chase that value of creativity without feeling like they're not going to make everybody else around them upset or mad, because people around them were saying, yeah, but you can't make a living out of that, and you need to have something more important to work on first. And so they were trying to live this life to please others.
Mm-hmm.
And then and man, I feel like this is a bad transition though to get to like the point that I think is the most important point about this. And
Okay.
that is in ACT, when we talk about that, if you are doing things because you think you're supposed to, or you're doing things for others, that those are socially compliant goals. I mean, and you do them because I guess this is what I do, or I don't want somebody to think that I don't care about them, or that I'm not doing the right thing, which is the right thing according to them. And so
Yeah.
when you live a life full of socially compliant goals, your motivation is weak and ineffective because it goes against your personal sense of becoming or unfolding. And so if you, and then we introduce this concept of experiential avoidance. So if I don't want to do the thing in the first place, then I can find a million other things to do as in a way to avoid the thing that I actually don't want to do that I'm supposed to care about. And I think when you look at it at that level, I really sometimes will ask clients, hey, where do you feel the most authentic, or where do you feel like you're able to do the thing, something that you really want to do? And it's sometimes a hard question to ask, because people will sit there and say, I don't know if there's anywhere where I feel like I'm truly acting in accordance with
Yeah. Which is
my
scary. Like, it's
values.
scary to
It's
realize
really
that.
scary.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's a lot. You have to think a lot and look inward a lot. And that's why I think this is a topic that is like kind of uncomfortable for me, because it's something I'm
Yeah.
still like figuring out.
Yeah.
and so it's hard to have to sit there and go, okay, I don't really know everything that I care about, and I don't really know what all my values are, and I don't know what my purpose
Yeah.
is right now, and that's scary.
And then what I like to say too is that then people will say, so okay, once I figure that out, then I can start to do. But
Right.
then that just is kicking the can down the road. So you actually have to
Right.
start doing to find out. So I can, I've got a values list. I work with people, and you try to narrow it down to 4 or 5 values, and then you come up with value-based actions.
Mm-hmm.
And but then even then, sometimes people will say, okay, so I guess those are my core values, period. So now but it's like, oh no, here's a start. So now you go out and you start being and doing. And as you start to do or be in accordance with those values, you'll start to discover, okay, now that I'm heading in this direction, then turns out I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction. And so I like to say, sometimes even when we start this, we're at point A, and then we're saying, okay, so I need to know Z. But like, I think we've talked about this before. I mean, when I quit my computer job, I looked at becoming a financial planner, a pharmaceutical sales rep, working for a big company, going back to school. And then you start just doing, and then you
And
see
it's the
where it goes
little
from there.
things. It's little
For
tiny
sure.
steps, and that's
Yeah.
good. That's I think the little, the A to B is better than just the trying to do the A to Z.
Yeah. Oh
100%. Like,
gosh.
just
Yeah.
doing the little thing. And I think you're right, where it does almost, in just doing the things, you're then able to kind of narrow down, what you do care
Hmm.
about and what does matter to you. And
Yeah.
again, we've talked about this, but even if we're talking doing Legos and doing like the
Yes.
little tiny things,
Yeah.
just doing is helping you find what you care about,
It is.
which
And
is
then you can, because
huge.
if you and you find out that you don't like that, and then you can do something else. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I've shared it on your podcast, but I think often of a good example is at the beginning of the year, people start to do their New Year's resolutions. So the timings on this is pretty good. And
Yeah.
so I think so often they are doing absolutely socially compliant goals. I'm going to lose weight.
Yeah.
And
It's
if
the
they
all the
don't
people going to the
really,
gym and all the yeah.
yeah, if they have a value of fitness, for example,
Mhm.
then because losing weight can be this goal, this number. Okay, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. So I could starve myself and get to 20 pounds. And now what do I do? But if I have a
Right.
value of fitness, then I'm gonna start taking action on things that will provide me with fitness. And then if I do it for 5 minutes, 20 minutes, if I lose weight or I don't, doesn't matter, because
Because
that's not.
the value there is fitness. It's not this goal of, yeah, I need to lose 20 pounds,
Yeah,
which is
because
such a
that.
crazy way to just change the perspective there
Mm,
and just make such a big difference, because that just alone would be life changing to somebody that is so set on the goal, right? Like, so set on the numbers. and the
Well, let me tell
goals.
you, it's funny that even that reminds me. So I think even a better example, because a lot of people will think, well, that's so cliched, the fitness one, but inevitably I'll have somebody that'll say, okay, I'm going to read 12 books this year. And that one sounds like a great thing. But then what happens is life's all over them. And then they're in April or May and they've maybe read 1 or 2 books. And so then at that point, they just say, you know what, that was a silly goal to begin with. But if they have a value of knowledge and the vehicle is going to be reading, then how about you just read?
And
And
who
you
cares if
might
it only ends up being 2 books that
exactly.
year?
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes even people say, oh, because well, then I actually end up reading 13. I'm like, probably not. Maybe you still might only read 2 or
Right.
3, but
Or
you might read 5
maybe
minutes one
you'll
day.
wanna keep
You
reading.
might.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. Yeah.
But that part doesn't matter. That it just yeah, it's the just
Just
doing the
picking that
thing when you
value,
can.
value and
Yeah.
purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. It's deep. It's just and there okay, so then Forbes has an article that I'll just read a couple of things from it. It says purpose is a belief that your life matters and that you make a difference. It is a sense of being guided by meaningful values and goals. Purpose can be related to families or parenting, career, religion, activism, artistic pursuits, or other contributions to community. And then this is interesting. Okay, get
Okay.
ready.
Okay.
In Japanese, the word ikigai describes a reason for being, a reason to wake up in the morning, which if you have not listened, we have a
Oh,
whole
that was a good
episode
one. Yeah, we
about
do.
ikigai and it was a good one and it's a crazy thing. It's all about, what gets you out of bed in the morning, basically what your
Yeah.
purpose is, what you care about. And so I think it goes hand in hand with all this. It's a great formula basically to figure out how to take something you care about and make it bigger. So that's interesting. But then goes on to say that purpose doesn't have to be world changing either. It can simply be the expression of your talents to help your family or your friends. It says that dreaming small is helpful and that purpose doesn't have to include pressure to find the cures for diseases or
Yeah.
inspire world peace. It can just be doing the next thing that makes sense and performing work which allows you to express your unique capabilities to help others or contribute to the broader community. Purpose is a big deal, but it doesn't have to be rocket science. Which I like all of that. All of that I
Yeah.
feel like is kind of right on, what we're talking about. And it's this new thing I didn't know purpose could be,
Yeah.
where, it is about what matters to you and it is about making a difference. And so it can feel really big. And like it makes sense that it feels really big, but it can be so unique and so individual to every person. And again, it changes because people change. Like as people, we change all the time. And so
Yeah. Hopefully.
yeah. And so it makes sense that as you're growing and changing, your purpose is too.
Yeah. And I think that's important because it does play into which we can maybe tackle this one down the road too, but we don't all have to feel like we have to be the most specialist flower in the field, which
Yeah.
sounds like, wait, am I saying that you aren't
Kind of sounds
special? Oh,
mean at first.
right. You're absolutely special. But then we so often want to be, we have to be really, really special because that means we need the validation. But if we're doing
Yeah.
the things that kind of give us that sense of purpose, matter of fact, can I read? I've probably even covered this one before, but these are the 2 examples of happiness from the book called The Happiness Trap, which is one of those acceptance and commitment
You
therapy
made me
books I
read
love.
that one. It's really good.
Okay, it is right. So the
Yeah,
word
read it.
happiness has 2 very different meanings. The common meaning of the word is feeling good. In other words, feeling a sense of pleasure, gladness, or gratification. We all enjoy these feelings, so it's no surprise we chase them. However, like all human emotions, feelings of happiness don't last. No matter how hard we try to hold on to them, they slip away every time. And as we shall see, a life spent in pursuit of those good feelings is, in the long term, deeply unsatisfying because the harder we chase after pleasurable feelings, the more likely we are to suffer from anxiety and depression. And this is what plays into what we're talking about today. The other far less common meaning of happiness is living a rich, full, and meaningful life. When we take action on the things that truly matter deep in our hearts and move in directions that we consider valuable and worthy, clarify what we stand for in life and act accordingly, then our lives become rich and full of meaning and we experience a powerful sense of vitality. And it's not it's not some fleeting feeling. It's a profound sense of a life well lived. And although such a life will undoubtedly give us many pleasurable feelings, it will also give us uncomfortable ones, such as sadness, fear, and anger. But this is only to be expected. If we live a full life, we will feel the full range of human emotion. I think that one's like, that's deep. Sense
That's
of
it right
purpose
there.
is really what it's
That
talking
yeah.
about. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I think if we're looking at purpose that way, it's knowing like that there are things you want to achieve and like why
Mm-hmm.
those things matter to you, but it's more about who you are than what you are doing. Or
Do.
not even what you
Yeah.
know what I mean? But it's like
Yeah.
it's more about just who you are and yeah, the life you're living. And obviously then that looks different from person to person, right? Like one person's
Yeah.
rich, full, meaningful life is going to look very different than another. And that's so okay. That is so,
Yeah.
this kind of goes along with that a little bit with just, this living that rich, full, meaningful life. Psychology Today was talking about some studies that they did, and it says that research shows that individuals who have a strong sense of purpose, which again, we're looking at purpose as not a one specific thing, right? We're looking at
Yeah.
this as everything we've just talked about, where it's all the little things and it's changing and evolving and whatever. But individuals who have a strong sense of purpose and meaning in life tend to have better mental health, overall well being, and cognitive functioning compared to those who lack a sense of purpose. Individuals with a sense of life purpose are less likely to have heart attacks, strokes, and dementia.
Mm,
Several studies also show that individuals with a strong sense of purpose tend to engage in healthier behaviors and lifestyle choices, such as practicing regular physical exercise and participating in preventative health studies. They're better at stress management, have better sleep. Additionally, individuals with purpose tend to have lower instances of depression.
wow. I believe
So
all
many
that,
things.
Mac.
Yeah.
It's so
Oh,
many
I'm
things.
sure. So many
Yeah.
things where just having any sense of purpose, I think, just
Yeah.
makes a difference.
Yeah.
um, and then interesting statistics, only 25% of American adults say that they have a clear sense of purpose.
Yeah.
So if you don't totally feel like you know what your purpose is or is something that's uncomfortable or that you've struggled with, that's very normal. That's
Yep.
very much, you're with the majority there. But
Yeah.
there's so much good, I think, that comes from leaning into it more and trying to figure it out. And then the other common thing I felt like I saw in all these articles was saying that purpose, it's like this right here, it says purpose comes from a sense of self-knowledge and must be created, not found. And that you do potentially have to put in some work to create it,
Mm,
which is interesting because it's something you create. It's not something that's just handed to you. It's not something that is just on this list. It's something that you create for yourself. And it does
yeah.
take, I think, tough questions and deep conversations with yourself and potentially your close people around you. Okay, I have one more thing I want to read.
Okay.
And then I'm pretty much tapping out. And then if you have any helpful things from a therapist side, because my thing with this episode was I have lots of feelings and thoughts and I'm learning things about it, but I don't have
Hmm.
solutions. I don't have any like, here's what to do and here's the next step. And like,
No, I'll throw a couple out
so,
right before we're done. Yeah, because
okay.
then we think we've covered a lot today. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is actually from Reddit. And so this is just some anonymous response from a person. And
Okay.
it made me feel lots of things.
Okay.
So they said, I'm 31 and I've discovered that life is literally what you make of it. All cliches are true. If you want to lose weight, do so. If you want to draw better, practice. If you want a new car, save what money you can. It's easy when it's easy and it's hard when it's hard. Life isn't what elementary school, middle school, and high school prepared me for. There's no grade on how well you're living half the time, and the majority of folks, me included, still haven't figured out the supreme divine or cinematic purpose that is often revealed at the climax of a plot. You have plenty of time, and every step forward is unique and beautiful. You can learn a new skill, whether you are 6 or 60. You can turn your life in a new direction if you want. Personally, I give myself a buffer zone for life, not a purpose. If I'm financially able to enjoy a glass of ginger ale and a DiGiorno pizza on a weekday night, I'm doing just fine. I think the thing about purpose is, like humanity, it changes. My purpose at 18 was to move out. My purpose at 22 was to find a better job. My purpose at 25 was defeating my depression. My purpose at 26 was literally starting life over in a new state. You are human and incredible. Keep moving forward and don't let regret slow you down much. Just like a pothole in an old road, it can be fixed with resources and determination, even if the mark lingers afterwards.
All right. Tell me about all your feelings.
It's like what we've talked about before, where it's all up to you. It's
Mm,
all your choices. It's what you care about. There's time, just purpose changes, and it's normal to not know some divine specific purpose. It's totally normal.
yeah.
It's okay. And then it is just the little things, and you're probably doing way better than you think you are. And you probably know more about what your purpose is than you even think, just based, and
Yeah.
there's conversations to be had with yourself and there's things to think about, but you probably know the things that you do care about if you look inward. Anyway, so I just thought that was for a
Yeah.
little random Reddit thing. I was like, that was deep.
Oh,
But
Well, and the stuff that I thought was so good was the part where if you want to do this, you have to practice. If you want to do this, you have to do something about it.
Yeah.
Because I live in this big world of people that come in and say, first of all, they start with I know I shouldn't want to do. So you have to like clean that up. You can do
Right.
whatever you want.
Whatever
But
you
that's
want.
that socially compliant goals where, well, I know, but I've been told I need to do this other thing. And then, okay, then I get into that whole, that's adorable that somebody else knows what you need to do better than you
Right.
do.
Your life
Now,
and
I
your
do know that
experiences.
yeah, and I do think it's fair to say that parents, or I know, bless all their hearts, are trying their best because it's almost like you have to start from some canvas, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so then a parent is thinking, okay, well, I do think they would be great in this area, or this is all I know, so this. But then the hope is that then as the kid starts to figure themselves out, that then the parent realizes that it's not an offense to the parent if the kid wants to do something different. Because and I think about this often of the concept of a muse, that do you know that concept, the muse? Or
We've talked about it a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, I realize I say it a lot, and I think I need to spend some time with ChatGPT and come up with a better thing. But I mean, it's like it's anything we interact with really is something that then allows us to have thoughts and feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I was listening even to somebody talking about. I know we started earlier today with some stuff about religion, and they were talking about reading scripture brings a certain thing up for them, and it just had me thinking about the fact that it's so wild that people can interpret scriptures in a million different ways.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself means that the scripture is a muse. It could be a faith
Mm-hmm.
promoting story, allegory, poetry, parable. And so then people make from it what they will, but then certain people will say, no, this is the right meaning of it. But then except for all the other people that think it's something different. Or, somebody can look at artwork and think this is just a piece of garbage, and somebody else can have a emotional reaction to it. Or if somebody says, well, I think you should do this, and I sit there and quickly go, I don't think so. So then the fact that they said that is my muse for me to then
Mm-hmm.
say, is there truth in that? Or do I trust this person? Then if so, let me be curious. Well, why do you feel like I should? And if it's well, I don't know. I guess I would like for you to do that because it would make me feel better. Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate that honesty. I can start from there. I hadn't thought of that, but I'm not doing it for you, that kind of thing. And so
Yeah.
then, and I know here I'm 3 minutes later where, so somebody comes in first and says, I know I shouldn't. So then first of all, we clean all that up. Okay. Then what do you
Mm-hmm.
want to do? And let's just go back to that. I want to be an artist. Okay. Then and then get a little dopamine bump. Oh, that sounds cool. And then now let's sit back and wait for all the yeah buts to come in. Yeah, but I don't even know where to start, and I don't have the materials, and I don't have the time, and I've been told you can't make a living, and. So, okay, well, deck's stacked against you. So, it sounds like
Good
I
luck.
guess you can't do that, right? Yeah. Where then the acceptance is that, yeah, well, all those things might be true, where they're not really productive thoughts toward your value-based goal of
Mm-hmm.
wanting to be an artist or be creative or that sort of thing. And then I feel like then now you have to work through all those yeah buts and start doing. And I think early in the episodes we talked before about you wanted to learn to play music, and it's funny, Mackie, when I look back, and you did. And then when you were going to learn to draw, I really was blown away by how well you became, because that was one of the first ones for me personally that I always thought that I wanted to draw. And
Okay. Yeah.
I cannot, and I'm not even looking for you to go, no, you can. I
Well, you
cannot.
kind of can.
But I never spent any time on that. And I really wish I could play the piano better. And the reality is I never spent the time to do that. And I now accept that, where I probably 10 years ago, I would say, yeah, but I just never really had a chance or the opportunity, other than the fact that we had a freaking piano in our house our entire lives.
Forever.
Yeah. And
Which that is
that
an interesting
all the
example.
kids
Yeah.
figured out. Right.
Yeah. Because like, not to dog on you, but it is a good example of just, because then I did take that and I decided, okay, I'm going to learn this. And so
Yeah.
I spent the time and I watched the videos and I like read the books and
Yeah.
I did whatever to learn it. So I did the thing. And then
Yeah.
again, not to dog on you, but you didn't. You chose other things
Yeah.
and you've learned other
Well,
incredible things, but it's like that specific one, you didn't.
I
And
say number one, how dare you? But no,
trying not to
I
be
think it's
mean, but
no, but it's a great example, Mackie. And I think about this often of breaking patterns or cycles, and then with acceptance is that, I mean, we didn't have a piano in our home, so I never
yeah,
learned anything with that, and it wasn't an opportunity. And so I did want to do it, but I never voiced it to my parents. I never said I
right.
want to go take music lessons, because I probably just assumed that, well, I can't.
Right.
And
So
so
it's
then
just
it's
like, well,
like,
there goes
okay,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So we get the piano in there and I bang around on it enough that we can play some really nice versions of
Couple
Heart and
of
Soul.
things.
So
Yeah.
now there's some music in the house. And so then I just accept that I didn't know what I didn't know because
Yeah.
I tried taking lessons a couple times, but apparently you have to practice,
There's like
put
stuff
some,
that goes into it.
yeah. And so then here comes the kids and you and Alex. I mean, you guys start playing and it's really, I think about that often of saying, okay, so we've started to move that change the tide of that direction.
That is the thing though,
So
because you did contribute to that, even though it
yeah,
wasn't where
so I was
you
trying to
maybe
get you to
didn't.
say, yeah.
But really though, because maybe you didn't take the time to learn for yourself, but you did set it up so
But
that
for a
we
long
could.
time, though, I told myself, though, if only I would have, but then I had to come to this acceptance that, oh, but I didn't. So
And that's okay.
there you, it's okay.
It's not the
It's
end of the
absolutely okay.
world. And it's also not too
No,
late though. That's the other thing where
yeah, I think it is.
if you
No, I'm kidding. If I would, yeah, if I had the
if you
time
really if you
or if I
really
made the
really
time,
cared about it and
yes.
it was a big value to you, you
Yeah.
could make the time to still do it. There still
Yeah.
is that chance. It would probably be harder now than it is
Yeah,
when you're
for
a little
sure.
kid, but
Yeah.
you could do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you really could. You're right. I mean, because I have, yeah, if somebody said, okay, I am going to learn to do that, it really, that would be one of the greatest, muses of sorts is that
Yeah.
then, because I might even get the piano and then I notice, oh, actually, this is a great way when you say, what are the skills? Or maybe as we kind of wrap this up.
Yeah.
So the first thing, oh, that's where I was going with this whole thing
Okay.
is that people come in and they, okay, I know I shouldn't. So we took care of that. You can, it's fine. Then wait for the yeah buts. Well, yeah, but. And yep, those are probably things as well. So now that we've established all that, now start heading in that direction. And so then let's say somebody gets the piano. They find a way to get a piano. And I will tell you, this is the part where if I wasn't a therapist that's been doing this 17 years and had however many thousands of people, is that unfortunately now I have a million different, Disney ending stories where somebody then all of a sudden just starts, not like they're manifesting it, but they're starting to, now that they're saying, you know what, I wouldn't mind having a piano. And then lo and behold, it seems like from time to time, somebody's saying, hey, I just need to get rid of this thing. And I mean, I've had like probably
It
3 or
just
4 people
lines
that,
up, yeah,
yeah.
and
And I think
works
that's
out.
even how we got ours was that all of a sudden now you get a piano and then
Yeah.
it's like, well, yeah, but it's not tuned. I'm like, okay, now what you want? You want like a baby grand delivered by Liberace himself? I mean, we
Like,
we
what
didn't
do
even
you
have one.
expect?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
then you get it. And so those yeah buts are all along the way. And so now you have it. And then let's say you're not practicing with it. And this is where I go back to, I think I was telling you beforehand that every year I do or I rerun an acceptance and commitment therapy based New Year's resolutions episode.
Mhm.
Because if, first of all, you got to not go after resolutions that are the socially compliant goals. Well, I guess I
Right.
should do this.
They have to
Then
matter
you
to
have to,
you.
yep. So you have to have a value behind it. And so that gives you that sense of purpose. But even then, you're a human being. So you will not do it every day. As a matter of fact, you might forget to do it for 2 weeks. And then when you remember, instead of I guess I'm no good at that, or I guess that doesn't matter. It's just, oh yeah, I remembered it. So now I'll do it again. And then you might do it for 2 or 3 days and then you'll forget again because you're human. And that's part of the process. And when you remember again, then you start again. And that's eventually, and the data now shows it's not 21 days to make a habit. We're talking like 6 months of off and on, as long as it really matters to you. And then you'll sort of start to really do it more than you didn't.
Yes.
Hard sales pitch, but then eventually it will be a thing. And so that's the part where I just feel like people just have to have more of that consistency. And that's where that experiential avoidance, that if I really don't care about it and I've got online bingo on my phone, I will not be doing it. But if I really care about it, then the bingo can wait, except for when I'm in the
Right.
bathroom. Yeah.
But any other
And then,
time.
right. Yeah. I don't know. Tell me if does that make sense? You must tell me yes.
No, yeah, yes.
Oh, you said no. You literally
No,
said no.
I was saying that I was going, no, it totally does. I was doing
No,
that
I'm kidding.
thing.
Yeah.
God. But yeah, no, it really it really does make sense. And I just think like all of this to say that purpose doesn't have to be scary and overwhelming. But it can still be a good constant in your life. Like
And
it's
it can
just
change. And it can change.
and it can change. It should
That's
change,
significant.
honestly.
Yeah.
There
Yes.
should be some change there. And it's good. It's good to change. It's good to grow. And purpose does that with you.
It does.
And that's really cool.
Because did you see the ticking talk that I sent to the family today from the people displeaser? Oh,
No,
it's just it's your mother even mentioned that this is something you and I talked about. So I was like, oh wow, she really does listen. It's so cute.
She's not just
But
lying.
yeah, but the guy was basically just saying that people really aren't as focused on you as you think they are. They might kind of be from time to time, but the reality is that it's kind of it's your thing. And
It's you, it's your life. It's not about what
it
the other
is.
people maybe think occasionally.
No, and then
about
he
you.
said, you have to get to the point where you love yourself so that I can even know you. Because if I'm continually just worrying about am I enough? Am I okay? Am I doing it wrong? We're still so far away from being able to show up in a way that somebody will get to know you. Because if you don't know yourself, you're still going out there. If they're saying, "Oh, you play the piano," I'm like, I don't know, kind of, sort of.
Because how can you know someone that doesn't even know themselves?
Doesn't know
all?
themselves, and I thought that was so. It was so powerful.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's deep.
Did not. I resort to. Yeah. She didn't say that. Okay.
Okay. We're having a moment here. Okay.
I know that's my secondary emotion of humor when the feelings get all big. I don't have a toy to put in my mouth like our dog does. Yeah, I know, right?
I get it.
All right, Mackie, did we do it?
I think we did it.
That was fun. Every week is very fun.
It is very fun.
So then the takeaway is by next week you'll have like a whole bunch of more senses of purpose, and then we'll follow up on all of them.
Yeah, I'll actually just have one specific purpose that is just so big, and we'll just talk about
then
that.
You got to lock it down. I mean, that's where I can almost sound where I'm making fun of it, and I'm not really trying to. But it's like, no, you have to by next week. You got to find your thing. You got to dig into your lane, and you don't ever look back and no plan B, and you just go right ahead. And if you wake up in the morning and you're not feeling it, then you are thinking wrong. You just got to like, this is what I'm doing today. I mean, all that stuff.
Yeah. So get ready for next week.
Yeah. So it's not so much. It isn't about that. It's like, hey, figure yourself out. And then start heading in that direction. Get ready for all the yeah buts. So, you'll still probably play some more online bingo than you wouldn't, but you'll start moving the needle. You'll start
exactly the little things. It's just a day-to-day thing. Yeah,
exactly.
And that's it.
Okay. All right, like you buy that merch. Love your face.
Still doesn't exist.
One of these days.
Maybe. Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye, Mackie.